you're not alone in headship. We've lived it.
And we're here for it.
And that's exactly what our podcast's about. Hi, welcome to our new podcast, Co-Headteachers Chatter. I'm Carrie.
And I'm Claire.
And we like to welcome you to our podcast. We know just how tough this job can be. We've lived through the highs and the lows and everything in between.
And through it all, we've learned that sometimes you just have to laugh or you'll cry. But we want to bring some humour to a role that can feel incredibly heavy.
If you're ahead, we want you to feel heard, valued, and hopefully at the end of our show, a little bit lighter.
And as our podcast grows, we want to hear from you. Your stories, your wins, your worries. This is the space where you can be heard as a head.
So we'd like to launch our first episode, as if we really know what we're doing. Who are we? Okay, so in our first episode, we are going to dive into our co-head teacher diaries, chat about issues head teachers face every single day. So buckle up, this is Co-Head Chatter. Now, Claire, you were actually the head teacher at the school when I was a deputy, and you are younger than me. But could you just tell us how our co-head kind of came about?
Yeah, absolutely. So like many a good story in education, it started with money. It came down to funding. We were in a small one-form entry village primary school and we couldn't afford a deputy head teacher anymore. You had a young family, I had a young family. We worked incredibly well together as head teacher and deputy, and we talked about this elusive role of co-headship, and it was the opportunity for us to really, research a little bit more. So we did. We did talk to some existing co-heads and really did research. And then we put a proposal together to the governing body, and the rest is history.
It certainly is. And our co-headship has been really successful. We've done it twice in two different schools, both in situations where they were either satisfactory or requiring improvement. Our last school was like a Pandora's box. Every time we went through the door, another thing would open up and another issue would unfold in front of us. And I guess it definitely needed both of us, and we were very aligned and united in how we approached that. Can you sort of explain to us all why you think it's worked so well?
Yeah. So we were really clear from day one that we wanted this to work, and it was about how much we were going to put into that as well. But we needed that balance as well. We both had young families, and we were really honest about that. So it was for us personally and for the school. So we set out very, very clear roles. You looked after data assessment and attendance. I oversaw HR wellbeing and staffing. And then together we led on teaching and learning. And our ethos in education is very strong and mirrors one another. So we thought through the detail. We overlapped 1 day a week. We worked 3 days each, so a 6-day headship. And we had to be careful that nothing fell through any gaps. And that mattered because any weakness, staff, parents or children, they could and they would use it.
Definitely, we had that. Okay, so that's really takes us on to our next part of our podcast where we dive into our co-head diaries. And as co-head teachers, our diaries were so important because they kept us connected and grounded and actually safe.
Yeah.
And we were able to make sure that none of those gaps appeared.
Yeah.
So over the years, we've written in these diaries and it changed a little bit along the way. You know, we were very diligent at first. We wrote absolutely everything down. And then as things changed, we were more WhatsApping and messaging and things. So
texting constantly.
Yeah. So, things change a little bit, but they're still the same principles. So let's have a look at what I brought to the table today. Let me put out for you. Look.
Where do we
Make
begin?
today count. But I like a bit of stationery. So we always had a nice book to write in. Okay, so we're going back to 2020, and this is the beginning of March. Now, Claire was always very good at putting the dates in the diary. I was absolutely rubbish, but because she put the 27th of February, I knew this was March. So on my Monday morning when I came in, I've left a message in the diary telling Claire that a few people are keeping their children off school due to the coronavirus. And I'd had to send out information and call parents to say children would need to be in school. That was the information we were given at that point in time. We had no idea what was about to unfold for any of us.
Doesn't it feel surreal now?
Oh gosh, so surreal, so surreal.
I think some of this, this was the calm, and we thought we were just going to be able to sort this out before the case.
Yeah.
No training,
No,
no blueprint, but we still had to leave the school.
we did. And there was differences of opinions on what was going to happen. You were very much, I don't think it's going to be a lockdown. And I was very much, I definitely think we're going into lockdown. Anyway, so even on that same day, one of the children came up to us and told us that their sister had been in Italy, which had been a hotspot, and that she wasn't able to go back to school for a period of time because she had to isolate because she'd come from one of those hotspots in the country. So then we go on and normal things are happening, a variety of different things. We employ skip, we have a governors meeting coming up. We've got, hey Claire, that you asked your Facebook account to be turned into a business account. Has that happened?
Yeah, well, it's not really off my own one, but marketing the school's been a big point, hasn't it?
Okay. And then we go right forward to the 13th of March. And this was when rumours started to really get strong and we were hearing things. And Claire, who hadn't really panicked before now, obviously had a little panic on this Friday.
Started to get a little bit more organised here. So I've made a note about different expectations. If school was going to lock down, what on earth was staff going to do with their time? We assumed that everyone was still going to be paid. And we'd started to talk about, we had a young teacher who was really supportive of IT of Google Classroom. We were a school that used Google. And I sent a ticket to our IT team and I basically said, we need the Google Classroom working now. And eventually, I think we got all that things through quite quickly once we kind of got there, didn't we? Then we continue on, and again we've got meetings, the different people, budget meetings, and a budget meeting which Claire wrote several pages on, just before lockdown on the Monday, the week of the lockdown, where we find out that we have a little bit more money than we thought we had, and we could then now get our whole flooring done. The lights needed to be updated. The caretaker's house needed a bit of work doing, and we could get our new security gates. Absolutely. Important things that we've been waiting a long time for.
Yeah, we were in a building that needed quite a lot of TLC, and it had been a little bit neglected up till now. So we were really happy that was going to have some money spent on it, which was on the Monday before.
Oh, yes.
We'd had a bit of
got ready.
Rock of our emotions because I came in to find out a child in our school had been taken to hospital over the weekend with difficulty with his breathing. They thought flu-like symptoms, and then his breathing had been rather laboured and difficult. And Mum was really distressed coming in to tell me on the Monday morning. We were all very upset by this. And
he was absolutely fine.
He was absolutely fine after. But he took a few weeks to get himself back on his feet and recovered. So I then was told I had to ring Public Health England. So this was my first call, but not my last, Public Health England. And their advice was clean as much as you can, do a deep clean. Yeah, and that was it really. Apart from if the self-isolation figure reached a certain amount, I had to ring them back. I can't remember what that figure was now. But I think other things happened in the meantime.
I believe they did.
Oh, Claire, do you want to tell us about what happened on that Wednesday?
Yeah, so it was that Wednesday of the week when actually the nation, we all found out in terms of the anticipated lockdown, but we sat down as a staff. I can picture the classroom. I can picture where everyone was seated. And we were at that point of, okay, Boris Johnson is about to announce this. And so he did. And he also mentioned that schools needed to be open to give key workers some provision, some live provision coming into the building. And boy. So we had to go on to a different planning mode.
We did. We
And of
did.
course we did. That's what we did.
And that's where our co-headship really benefited us, because I came in on the Thursday and Claire turned to the diary. We see Claire again. She's writing down all the things that are going to happen here for the children who are going to be at home. And we didn't really know what that was going to look like, but we had, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah. In big capital letters, it says ice in case of emergency. We had a folder in our Google Drive, and basically classes were starting to put work in there. You know, it was springtime, and actually we had a very nice springtime here, didn't we?
The weather was fabulous.
Went into table overdrive.
We did, yes. We like a table, don't we?
Yeah.
Like a table. So while Claire was doing that, I was sorting out the provision, and we had the provision coming. So we had the website up and running. So that was key for us to make sure all the information was going to go through our website, and everyone had access to. The key people had access to update the website as well. That was another obstacle. So we were working together, Claire about the children working at home, and I was concentrating on the ones that were coming into school, rang round people. We put out information about what a key worker was, and they have to provide evidence. And it was all very complicated, but we would spend all weekend really quite calm and quite in control. And everything was good
Until Sunday night.
until it wasn't.
I get that dreaded head teacher Sunday night phone call, and it was Carrie. And she had COVID herself. So she'd got all those symptoms, you know, those early symptoms. She'd hit a wall, no energy, temperature, throat. Oh, Carrie, you've got COVID. So I was really worried about you.
Especially with COVID, because there's no testing at that.
No testing at that point, but we assumed. We had, you know, a couple of children had gone into hospital by then. But the other half of me was panicking about Monday morning. I don't start work officially until Wednesday. So I had to completely change, you know, what I was doing, rotas, room plans, staff availability, the cleaning schedule we were doing, the tech, against everything. But those jigsaw puzzle pieces, they just kept moving.
Yeah. I felt really guilty about that. I couldn't really get out of bed, do very much. Claire was an absolute champion, getting everything organised and sorted. But I didn't return for 2 weeks.
We did like a split shift.
We did, yeah. So we weren't infecting each other if one of us was to come down with it.
And it worked well for staff. I remember asking for mornings or afternoons. We literally did split the day because people were tired from anxiety. And we will give a shout out to Joe Wicks. It got us through, whether it be personally, but the whole school level as well. And that's great.
And it was different times, and it was different to the second lockdown completely, wasn't it? You know, and that takes us on to our next part in our podcast, which is about the daily dump. So as a head teacher, we do understand the complexity of your job and what gets dumped on you day to day. And things that come from left field that you never considered part of your job description, etc.
Wasn't on your list.
Definitely wasn't on your list, and that list didn't get done. So, you know, we're just going to talk about some of those issues that come up in headship, but we just thought, keeping to the theme of what we were talking about today, we want to just talk about sort of the chaos that came with COVID. So COVID chaos, we're calling it, of this stuff. And basically, you know, how that chaos of all the different briefings, routers, bubbles.
Yes, oh gosh.
All the bubbles, all the organisation, then
one-way systems.
Schools open, schools closed.
2 metre distancing.
Yeah. What do you need to do here?
Masks.
I mean, we were so lucky in that fact that our trust had this COVID committee every morning. And they took the legislation that could just come in, the briefing that had just come in, and they made it sort of condensed, and so we knew what we had to do.
So if you've got any other sort of COVID stories that we've, you know, focused now for you because we've reminded you, we'd really, really like to hear from you.